Hello and welcome back to Two Andrews, One Barbell, episode
Alien 14.
14.
Yeah.
I'm Andrew Blackwood.
I'm
in case
Andrew
you didn't know. And we're back again. This is the intro we give every single time. We need like a theme song, I think.
The theme song.
Yeah.
At the very start or just to
Yeah.
play while we're talking?
I haven't thought that far.
Yeah. Any suggestions, let us know.
Yeah. Like a jazzy kind of thing. Do you know the way in like the 80s they'd have like an intro to like a TV show?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Anyway, so been a while. It actually has been a number of weeks, I believe.
And it was Nick, wasn't it?
Yeah, since the last one. When was the one before that? What was that? Maybe a week or so. Basically, it's been almost like a month, I'd say, since we got to even catch up. See everyone. So what's been going on? Okay.
What has been going on? Okay, well, we basically haven't been a one-on-one since Junior Nationals.
Yeah.
So go all the way back.
Fucking when was that?
Man, it was
That was a while ago. That was a while ago. Okay. What's been going on since then? What's your training look like? What's your life look like? You did college stuff?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I feel like that's all I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I finished my degree. I had all my final assignments and exams.
Damn. Proud of you.
Did those. That was draining.
Yeah.
While I was doing that, training was dog water, like absolutely shite.
Why?
It got to the point where like I was actually thinking like I was feeling so bad on squat and deads that I might as well have not been doing them. I actually started questioning that and like, I was like, right, I could take the time off, come back and they'd be rusty and I would still just feel the same and probably progress just as fine. So yeah, that's my hope.
What weight are you lifting?
Oh man,
Go on,
like,
tell me.
we're talking
160.
Nah,
Squatting
nah,
160, come on.
like 200
Okay.
on squat
Okay.
for very tough reps.
Yeah.
No, that's what it is though. It's not even like, I was taking modest loads, like 4 at 6. I was trying to 4 at 6 it. It was not at 6. Yeah. So.
Man, I don't know about you, I'm fucking sweating.
Sweating.
I'm sweating in here.
Anybody watching, you're going to see us strip during this. Yeah.
Okay. So that's training. What does my training look like? I was like a laser beam after Junior Nationals. I was so locked in, dialed in, focused on training. I was the most like looking forward to training that I had been in years, it felt like. For whatever reason, I was so into it. It was so fun. I had all these goals and ambitions, and then I had a holiday lined up. And in my brain, I was like, okay, I'm on the ball. Let me not let this holiday interrupt things. Let me just keep that energy that I have. I'll stay on track as best as possible with the holiday, staying on top of my nutrition. I'll train as much as I can. None of that came to fruition when I went on the holiday. So I went to Morocco with my girlfriend for a week. There's just no gyms in Morocco. In any of the towns or the places that we went to, nothing. There was nothing around. There was one gym that we found that had a barbell on one of the days in one of the towns that we were in. Went there, tried to like deadlift and bench. That was the only training session I got in for the whole week that I was over there. Oh my goodness gracious.
Which to most people probably sounds normal. It's like, oh my God, you got a session in, well done.
Yeah, normally I train 6 days a week, so that was unusual. I did like front load training before I went away to try to do as much as possible, and then I tried to catch up on as much when I got home, but there was a bad nutrition situation over there as well. So going over, everyone was like warning us that like you have to be really careful with the food and stuff like that. You can't drink the water, so you can't like even brush your teeth like with the tap water. You have to be careful when you're having a shower, like nothing goes in your mouth or anything, like that kind of way. And then don't eat any of the like fruit and vegetables because they'll have been like washed in the water. But yeah, all these rules and regulations and people telling us what to do when we went
What's
there.
in the water? That's so damn.
Shit, I think it's actually like poo matter. Like, so that makes it even more gross when we realized what happened. So we were cruising the whole way through. I was like, fine. I was trying these like local dishes, tagines and stuff like that. It's delicious. I was loving it. And then the last day, I was like, you know what? All these people were warning me about like I was gonna get food poisoning and all this stuff. That didn't happen. And then like halfway through the last day, I just felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I felt like, do you know that like flu-y feeling where you have the body aches and you're like cold, but you're like actually hot? And I was like, what the hell is going on? Am I making this up? Like, is this happening? Or is it like the man flu? And I was like, nah, this doesn't feel right. And then from that point on, we flew home. for a week, I was just wiped out. I couldn't eat. I didn't eat for 2 whole days.
Tell the people what's happening though.
I'll spare you the details. It was fucking disgusting.
His body was
You can-
emptying out.
You can use your imagination.
Yeah.
Literally, if I would eat something, it would be like 10 out of 10 pain in my stomach. Like I was crippled. I was literally like, oh. And again, in hindsight, I'm like, was I exaggerating? But no, like this is actually it was probably the most horrible experience I've ever had. I was just in pieces, and after I ate, it was like my stomach was just saying, like, get whatever is in here out. I would have to go back and forth to the toilet literally every 15 minutes, about 10 times after any meal that I had. So I just didn't eat for 2 days. I was like, I'll starve whatever bacteria fellas that are in my stomach give me grief. Or they're getting nothing, right? I'm going on hunger strike. This is not happening. And I would drink water and I would be getting like 10 out of 10 stomach pain. I was like, I can't catch a break. Like, I'm what? So then I just started trying to eat food and it was just too sore and painful. And then I was still back and forth to the toilet the whole time. So this is destructive. This is ruining my life. That went on for probably like 3 days where I was max eating maybe like 1,000 calories. That was all that I could get in. I dropped like 6 kilos body weight. I went from 112, which was like amazing. That was just where I needed to be, down to 106, which is the lightest I'd been in like, this is the lightest I'd been in like 1 to 2 years. And in my brain, I was like, oh, it's just water weight. It's going to come back up real easy. But it was starting to drag on longer and longer to the point that I couldn't actually eat. And then I was talking to you and you were telling me about a time where you had a ropey stomach for like 2 weeks and I was like, man, I can't.
You're telling yourself nothing lasts for more than a few days.
Man, I thought it was going to be like 24, 48 hours and then gone. When it was like the 4th day, I was actually pissed.
It was to go to a week, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, like I was getting like angry at these little bacteria. I was getting punked by little microscopic motherfuckers in my belly. Man, I was fuming. I was on my knees. These fellas have me crippled. Right? So anyway, on like the 6th day, I was like, you know what, anything I can find in the house. I was raiding the cupboards. I was like, is there anything that's gonna give me relief? I found like a Baraka in the cupboard. There's nothing to do with like stomach pain. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like fizz these fellas out. Like, I drank that. I was in bed. I was doubled over, but I was like, in my brain, they were equally suffering. They were in pain too. So I was like, fuck you guys. And then I was raiding the cupboards more, and I found probiotics. And I was like, oh, that has to be good. So it was like 14 strains of live bacteria. I don't know if you've ever taken probiotics. 14 strains. There was 2 billion little bacteria fella per capsule. I took 2 capsules. So there's 4 billion bacteria being bombarded into my belly right there. And they're like fighting off the bad, like Moroccan bacteria that were giving me grief.
The poo bacteria.
Yeah. So I sent in the Avengers, and literally after 15 minutes of taking that probiotic, I had been like 10 out of 10 stomach pain. Gone, entirely gone. And from that like point forward, I would see, only meant to take like 2 a day. The next day took another 2, same thing. So like I was still, by the end of the first day, still a little bit ropey again. Second day, done. Well, I had billions of good bacteria in my belly. The other ones didn't stand a chance whatsoever. So then from that point forward, I was totally fine. Then like 3 days later, I was back up to 112 body weight.
What are you at now?
About 112.
Yeah, that was a little traumatic bout for you.
Yeah, I would wake up like 6 times during the night, having to go to the toilet, and it was like, it's miserable.
Telling me every time.
Yeah.
I'd like wake up and I'd like have like a string of texts being like, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, man, fucking 4th time, man, 5th, man, kill myself, 6th time. Yeah.
Oh, so that was an experience. Wouldn't recommend.
Do you remember what it was that you ate that?
No, I've no, because it could have been so many things. What it may have been, we were in this really like fancy pants hotel on the last day, and we got like drinks that had ice in it. So I'm thinking maybe the ice, but I think I'd started to feel ropey a little bit before that. Yeah. So I don't necessarily think it was the ice. The night before that, we were in a different hotel, and for breakfast, I think this is when it all started. There was like eggs, there was like scrambled eggs in the buffet thing, and I was like, okay, that's easy. At least that would be like somewhat decent meal that I can have at the start of the day. So I loaded my plate up with like this massive thing of scrambled eggs, went down, sat down with the thing, took like a big forkful, because it's just eggs. I don't know what eggs taste like. I eat them every morning. It was disgusting. It was like cold. They were like cold because they'd been sitting out for too long. Cold and really like wet and mushy, like they were undercooked. And I took like one mouthful. I wanted to spit it out, but I was in like a big like restaurant thing, so I had to just like firm it and eat it. But I didn't eat any more of it, and that was a disgusting experience. But I looked it up afterwards. I was like, what can give you like this sort of feeling when you're traveling? And they were saying if it's buffet food that has been left out for a considerable period of time, that can be it.
Okay.
So in my brain, I think it was the eggs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did your girlfriend get sick?
So she vomited the night that it started for me. She vomited one time, and then she was in the clear. So I think
she got rid of it.
Yeah, I think she just got whatever it was out. For me, I was like a hard guy. I was like, no, I'm not getting sick. And then it went deep. It infiltrated. It went behind enemy lines, and it got right there in my guts. And then I had to dig it out. Yeah. But yeah, we made it. We survived, and now we're here to tell the tale. So that was that.
Not being able to drink the water is crazy.
Yeah. Man, it was such a hassle. You're trying to brush your teeth, and you have to get your water bottle over the toothbrush, and then And then when we got home, I was like, I've never been more grateful to be in Ireland. Because I used to be like a hater. I was like, this country's so cold, it's so wet, I need sun, I need to go somewhere else. And then after coming back from there, I was like, you know what, this place fucking is the best in the world.
I drink the water, I can trust the food.
Yeah, you can drive, bro, the taxis, right? No seatbelts. No seatbelts in the taxis.
Wait, there's just none in it?
No, they don't have clips.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not that like you just don't use them. They actually don't have them. And then we were like, well, where's the seatbelt? And they're like, in taxis, you don't need them. And we're like, whatever. All of them drive on their phone. And it's not just like driving like with one hand, looking down a little bit sneaky, sending text. I have a video of my taxi driver driving with his elbows. Right? Brother's driving with his elbows with his hand in his, both hands on it.
What do they do?
Typing.
Texting?
Yeah, just texting their mates. Like, yeah, so that was an interesting experience. And road markings like on the road, just a suggestion. You don't have to.
Just a direction.
You don't have to follow those fucking things. Bro, they drive in the middle of the lane. It's like, do you know like the lane dividers?
Yeah.
Rather, they drive down the center of that. That's like the guideline that they're trying to drive down. Right? People on motorbikes on their phone. Right? Crazy stuff. People are like undertaking each other on the roundabouts and stuff. Brother, everyone on their Tokyo
drifting
yourself
in the back of the car.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah. Anyway, great experience. Glad to be back home.
Did you like Morocco? Other than
yeah, weather was very nice. We went to a place called Tagazu. I think that's what it was called. Beautiful. Probably one of the most like beautiful places I've ever been. Go back there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd go back to that place. Yeah. And then came home, lost all the body weight, managed to get back up. And it was my week 4, like when I was rebuilding body weight. Went great.
It went really well, yeah.
They couldn't hold me down.
Yeah.
I only trained 1 day in the previous week, and then week 4. But it's that thing we talk about. It's like where you're like forced to take a life deload.
Yeah.
You don't train, and you're fresher because you're not training. And then when you do come in, you're able to express strength.
That's what I was thinking. Like during the time that I was uber stressed, would it have been better for me to just
do
not squat?
Yeah.
It's actually hard because I was like my accessories felt great. Yeah. I could really get a good pump, upper body, lower body were fine. Yeah. But like squats and deads felt like I couldn't do a normal squat without like tempoing. I was so just like beat, and then it was sore and it was weak. In that situation,
you're going through.
What do you think if that was you? Like let's say you had came home and your squats felt like that.
Yeah.
What do you think is better in that situation?
I don't know. I don't know
either.
If it was one of my clients, you'd have to trial it.
I think my response would be, okay, we'll just do it and just go to the RPE.
I think my initial thought in my brain is you just have to eat shit a little bit for that period of time. Because for you, it was a little bit more prolonged. So it was like a few weeks of like high stress. And
I'm not feeling strong again either. It's just like I'm feeling more.
I think if you if you hadn't have done the work in that period, I'd say you would. I'd say if it goes beyond like 2 weeks of no training, that's where like the de-training starts to take effect. I would say you could probably take up to, like between a week and a half up to 2 weeks off, and then almost have like that net positive result of being fresher, but not detrained yet. But if it goes beyond 2 weeks, I'd say that's when the detraining starts to take effect. I saw a thing about that, like your muscles don't start to atrophy until like 2 weeks of no activity. And maybe I'm making that up, but I read that somewhere. And that's how I like to believe that.
I'm just trying to think, like, if ever I'm in a situation again,
Yeah.
probably likely, that everything just feels like shit.
Yeah.
Do I go from maybe 2 times to 1 time squat?
Yeah.
Do I go from maybe 2 times to 1 time deadlift? Something like that.
Try it. I think
It's
that's
like
the only way.
when it's feeling that bad, I don't think I'm making any tangible progress anyway. Maybe putting on muscle, whatever, but it's not like I was upping numbers. It's not like I was making huge
forcing
strides.
adaptations of any sort.
So taking that second day, what was I going to do?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Nothing wrong. I think. Yeah.
Try it out. Yeah, it's just interesting to see that trend, and it's funny because we know it. Like we know that happens. That whole thing of having a little bit of time off, but it's funny seeing it happen again. That little reminder that you can be off track for a week or so. Because I'll have lifters who are like, I'm going away on holidays for a week. What do I do?
Yeah, I'm like, good, man.
Yeah, amazing. Enjoy.
Yeah.
See you in a week.
Yeah.
Because I remember that's something I used to be so panicked about. Of like, and leading up to this holiday, I'd say it was the most like relaxed I'd been. Because I would before be like on the phone looking up gyms in like every location nearby to see like where can I train, trying to plan and everything out. This time I was like, I'll when I get over there, I'll figure it out. When I got over there, turns out there was no gyms. But at the same time, I was like, fuck it, like it will be fine.
Yeah.
And then even it double whammied with the sickness, and I was like, oh geez, I'm really like I've gone through it now, and it was still totally fine. So yeah, you'll be grand.
Yeah, your week 4 went really well.
Yeah,
Really well.
270 squat, 170 bench, and then like a 300 pull.
Yeah.
Which is like that would be a good week,
Yeah.
regardless of any other circumstances. So yeah, was happy with that. What else has been going on? We did a podcast. We did a different podcast. We did.
We're on Arneen, yeah.
Maybe that's why it feels like it has
'cause we
been
kinda
like a
did
little
meet
bit.
up for a pod,
Yeah.
That was great. It was really
Yeah,
fun.
how'd you find that?
Really, really fun. It was cool. Obviously, different setting. We had the mics and the headphones.
Yeah.
That was cool.
I found that interesting. I
Yeah.
found that it was a good experience. I really enjoyed doing it in that setting. I think I prefer ours. I think I prefer just having the mic here.
Yeah.
The headphones and the mic made it feel so proper.
It did.
Made it
It
feel
did.
like I was doing something like
Yeah.
not just chatting with my friend.
It made you
Yeah.
it made us a lot more conscious of what we were saying.
Yeah.
The volume,
Yeah.
speed.
Yeah.
Because you could
Not
hear it, right?
interjecting because
Yeah.
you hear in the headphones what people are saying, everything else is blocked out. So here, like I probably cut across you
We
so
probably
often.
do it a lot though.
It's
And we
just
could even
chatting.
do this.
Yeah, it's just chatting. Whereas you can't do that with the mic. You feel like you're talking at turn in school or something like. But it was a really good experience. It was cool to see how another like podcast does it.
Really high quality it felt.
Yeah, I was like, fucking hell, man.
Yeah, that was
But
fun.
I like our little goofy
Yeah.
one, our little Jesus chuck these
We need to
fellas
have
on.
him on.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
We'll organise that one. Yeah, we need to. We're planning lots of exciting, cool, fun guests for you guys. I say that with
No.
there's some in the
Fun
back of the
ones
brain.
lined up. Yeah.
We got to organise that. Yeah. What else? Are there other things to catch up on?
Man,
I'm trying to think. Worlds. You got your Worlds invite?
Yeah. Not that I want. I reluctantly accepted it during all that time.
Yeah.
Man, I'd like just come out of a session where like I just about picked up 200 off the floor.
Yeah.
I was like, accept.
Were you actually feeling that like, oh, I could not do this competition and be fine?
No, you know what it was? It was like, it's the lesser of the two evils. If I succumb to how I'm feeling and decline it, man,
You feel like
what am I feeling then? It's like I'm shitting, I'm not going. At least shitting, I'm going is fine.
Oh yeah.
Something's got to pick up before I go out. It's like 225, third. Everybody's like, boo.
Oh, like what are you weighing now?
Like 101.
101.
Yeah.
What were you at comp?
In the run up, I was like just shy of 103. On the
Okay.
day, I
Yeah.
didn't, and I was like 103.8.
Okay. So, a semi-intentional deficit, little drop in body weight.
Yeah. I wasn't even tracking. I just cut out the excess.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means anything to people listening. It's more like you probably know yourself. It's like
Yeah.
there's like core meals in your day.
Yeah.
You fluff them up with either increased quantities, like
Yeah.
instead of 100 grams of rice, I'll have 150 grams of rice. You know, I'll have like garlic bread, or I'll have in between snacks. I'll have bigger snacks. I'll have cereal. I'll have like granola before I go to bed. All that was gone.
Yeah.
Kind of is. I've incrementally added things back in like a controlled way. My body weight's just starting to become more normal again.
Yeah.
That's all I did.
What was the lowest you got down to? Body weight was?
It was the night after drinking, to be fair,
Okay.
and I was 100 flat.
Okay.
So probably not indicative of what I actually was.
Okay.
It's weird how you do that, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you have a plan for what you want to get back up to before Worlds?
It's got to be 105. Like, it's got to be 105.
More.
More?
108.
Oh man.
Nah, there's no way you could get heavier. I'd say the heaviest you could reasonably get is 105.
I think
in
I'd be
period
very
of
single at 108. I think that would appeal.
like if you, realistically, if you got to 108 within the time frame that you have, a lot of that would have to be back.
I'd be rotund, man.
What the fuck?
I'd have to get 2 seats on that plane to Malta.
I like that. On that note, actually, when I had lost all the body weight, my stomach was like so flat, man. I was like, I feel like a supermodel. This is fucking crazy. But then my arms and legs started to be skinny as hell. But what I found crazy is obviously I didn't eat properly for like a couple of days. That so much of like the bulbous power belly that I rock the majority of the time, how much of that is just like food bloat? Because when there wasn't the food in my system, I was like, oh my God, I'm shredded, man. I'm fucking, this is amazing. So I was surprised about that. And it was almost like reassuring. Like that little tiny drop in body weight, I was like, oh, I keep feeling like I'm so fat, but like literally a week of lower eating and all, granted it was very much restricted eating. I was like, I feel great about body composition again. So I know no matter when it is that I decide, okay, a bulk is done for good, we're coming back down, it's not gonna be that long of a process to get to a body composition that I'm comfortable with.
But we were also discussing how far away really lean is.
Yeah.
And this is something that just came to mind, right? We've discussed with people, I feel like it's often asked about bulking to us. We're like, no, it's a big, you have to get used to it, your identity, changing weight class, changing how you look, your body image, like being okay with being bigger and higher body fat.
Yeah.
Man, it's a reverse identity change for us coming down as well. Like when you do cut, right now you're like 112. Yeah. Man, we were saying for Andrew to be lean, like, like really like striations in his pecs, everything. We don't know, obviously, but like
between 80 and 90,
Man,
somewhere in there.
You probably wear double XL right now.
Yeah.
Man, you'll be wearing
small, medium.
Yeah,
that's fucked. I don't. Yeah.
That's a huge identity shift.
I actually don't.
You don't want to think about it.
I don't want to think. I don't want to think about that, and I don't plan on ever getting to that stage. To be honest. Oh
man.
I don't. Imagine how knackered it would feel being under the bar squatting if you weighed 85
You need a new
kilos
belt.
now. Oh yeah, big time.
I kept my old one.
Yeah, I have 3 belts. I have a medium, I have an XL, now I have a double XL.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I only have 5 notches left on the double XL.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had to be lean, I'd be definitely in the 80s.
Yeah.
Definitely low 80s, I'd say. I'd have way more muscle than the last time I was there.
Yeah, but
I'd be light, man.
Feel gross.
Blown away in the wind, man.
Yeah, that would. Yeah, I don't want to.
People wouldn't refer to me as big boy anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to. Yeah, the idea of that scares me actually.
It does.
And it is, and we've talked about it a few times now at this stage of like how body image gets so skewed as you get leaner, and even in the short instance that I had in a cut last year, I was finding that like coming down that. Oh, I want to get leaner again. I want to get more shredded. I could have more muscle separation here. And I find myself when I'm in that headspace of like judging my value based on like how I look. Oh, it's just such a slippery slope. It's so bad. And it's also a tricky one because like so much of the fitness industry is like centered around being in like really good shape and being lean and being jacked and all the rest of it. that in my brain I'm like, okay, that's a piece of my content, say, that I'm missing. That's something that I want to focus on down the line. But I don't want to get to a stage where like my content is just centered around how I look, because then say you have a post or you have a certain bit of thing that you post up that doesn't get as good engagement, and it's literally the whole point of the post is how you look. You're going, fuck, do I not look as good? What, am I fat? Like, what's wrong with me? Why am I this one? And I know that is what I would fall into. I don't know if that's just a me problem, but if I was seeking like validation based on how I looked, that would ruin me. It's just such
I don't think that's
a
a
negative
you
spiral.
problem. Definitely not.
Yeah, so I'm trying to avoid that at all costs.
Dan, now you're pointing out something that maybe a lot of people in the industry face.
I would imagine so. If your whole like persona online is just being in good shape,
If that's it.
What do you do if you're even getting
Half the likes.
Yeah, or like you're 1% higher body fat, so you're getting like just a little bit softer than what you were when you were like at your peak and you looked your best. And that, like, say bodybuilders coming out of contest preps, like they are now always going to be comparing themselves to that like ultimate absolute leanness that they had to grind for 20 weeks to diet down to, and anything above that is going to be fatter. You're not going to be as lean, you're not going to be as shredded. How the hell do you use that as like your yardstick for what is good or what is, I don't know, what your value is? That's a slippery slope.
It's definitely cannot be tied to social media.
Yeah.
Well, there's a question in the questions we're about to run through now on social media. We don't have to answer it right now, but it is a good topic.
Yeah. Right, we'll dive into the questions.
Yes.
Will we just start from the beginning, or will we start from now?
Fuck it, unless you have any you want to start with.
No, we'll start from the beginning. Just because we oftentimes, we have a list of questions here.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, we'll like jump around the questions, and then you've no idea what you have answered, what you haven't answered.
I mean, it remedied by a simple tick or something on our phone, but no, we don't do that shit.
No. Okay. Signs you need to change your powerlifting coach. And then there's an add-on that I thought from this, just in general, like coaching red flags, and then also like athlete or lifter red flags, because we've been on both sides of the fence, let's say.
Yeah. So signs need to change your coach. To preface, I've never have. I've actually just had Adam.
Yeah.
So I haven't actually gone through the experience of it. So I'm not speaking from experience, more so if I was talking to Andrew or if I was talking to anyone or even my own lifters.
Yeah.
If I was trying to think of a reason that I would think it was just for them to leave, other than just not wanting to be coached by me anymore. Because that's obviously very valid as well.
Yeah.
So one of the kind of coaching red flags that came to my mind is like taking things too personally. So maybe not taking there's being invested, but I'm saying like, let's say there's a critique to the program or people questioning why you were implementing something or why you're doing something in their coaching. Maybe getting emotional about that and getting reactive about that. And then, so if someone was leaving you as an athlete, there should be no repercussion whatsoever. It's like if they want to leave, they want to leave. Like at the core of this, it is a transactional.
It's a business transaction.
So that's what it has to go back to when they're leaving. Of course, while it's working, it's your friends. But when they're leaving, they're ending the transaction, not ending an emotional.
Yeah, it's not boyfriend girlfriend.
Yeah, it's not a breakup.
Yeah.
And I've heard stories of
where it does.
people getting angry that their athletes are leaving.
Dare I say, I've gone through that.
So that is not something.
Being the athlete in that.
That's a red flag. So maybe just being beyond invested, but like emotionally attached, or just being emotionally reactive. Full stop. It's like you need to be able to completely step back, and no matter what your athlete says to you, it's like I've seen other things. Even the question athlete red flags is treading a line of like, is the athlete ever going to do something wrong?
Interesting.
Like
that's a can of worms. That is,
isn't it?
Right? Yeah.
Because you see people like kind of complaining about athletes and their behavior, but it's like they're just paying you for help. Yeah. They're not your son or daughter. Like you don't need to give out about
come on. Yeah. So let me have a think. So what is a sign that you should be leaving your coach? I think if you are thinking that, if that is the thought that you have in your mind, should I leave my coach? I'd say that's probably a sign. Yeah. If you are questioning it in the first place, then maybe it is time, because if you don't believe like in the coach, or you're not confident in the coach, or like invested in their philosophies or their methods, I would say that's probably like a massive part of the value of coaching that you're then missing. Like that investment or belief in the coach that what they're giving you is going to work and help you to get better. That belief that you're going to get better by following this thing is probably a large part of what will actually contribute to that progress or that growth. Whereas if you're looking at your coaching own, they've sent you on your program and you're going, this fella's a fucking idiot and he doesn't know what he's talking about. Even if the program is deadly, if you don't believe in it, you're probably not going to get the returns that you could otherwise if you were working with someone that you did respect and look up to and believe in. So I'd say that if you're noticing that like fracture in the relationship, that's probably a pretty strong indicator that maybe you would be better off elsewhere.
Definitely the like incongruency.
Yeah.
Similar to, it's weird, there's similarities and differences obviously, but like in a relationship, if there's major incongruencies, obviously of course, if you're like, oh, I don't like that spot being there, then you talk about it, right?
Yeah.
But if there's like, I fundamentally disagree with
the approach,
why they are programming like this, then it's like, neither of you could be wrong. You could both be right in either camp, but the camps don't mix very well. And so
that's another interesting one that you mentioned there of like, say I don't like this squat in this place, talking about that. So if, say, this is another thing, if as a lifter you are questioning like, should I leave my coach, blah, 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 and there are things like in your mind that you don't like, you have to bring it up. You have to have the conversation about that. You can't just like not like these things and then let it like ferment in your brain. That's when you're gonna like build up all this resentment and the coach is on an entirely different page of not being aware that you want to change these things, and it's something that oftentimes a simple conversation could address. So both parties need the opportunity to address something that is coming up or something that someone's not happy with. So do that first and foremost. Don't just, oh, there's this thing that my coach does that I don't like. I'm going to do 3 blocks and hate them the whole time, and then I'm just going to quit. Just have a conversation. And I think that goes for almost like every relationship, obviously. But we're not relationship counselors. So, yeah, what else? Communication, that's a big thing, I would say. Yeah. Then other coaching red flags. For me, this is a massive one that I have. Coaches who are like rude to the lifters or talking down to the lifters. And it's something that, I don't know, I see quite a bit. But brother, the lifter is paying the coach for a service. Like the lifter is the one with the power. It's not that the coach is this like all-knowing, all-seeing being that just tells you what to do and you have to do it because I said so. And if you do something wrong, I'm going to scold you and give out to you and talk down to you. Anything like that, that is, I can't wrap my head around that. How as a coach you would like talk down to a lifter or be rude to them or like guilt them, make them do anything that makes the lifter feel bad about themselves. That to me is insane, but it is quite common.
I'm finding it hard to, I always do this, right?
Yeah.
In any circumstance, I'm like, right, can I understand the other side of things in any way? Even if they're wrong, can I understand what they are basing their idea off? That one, I'm struggling to think about. Why, where is it ever justified? Unless, like this doesn't happen though. I was going to say, unless they specify that they want to be no one does that. No one says, I want my coach to be mean to me.
Yeah, I want my coach to be an asshole.
No, no one said, like,
that doesn't happen.
I've kind of heard the argument like, oh, like, you know, I've had lifters or athletes that like want to be trained in like a harsh way. It's like, yeah, sure that they want things to be like very structured, unemotional and like maybe don't want the empathy when they're going through a hard set, but that's very shallow. That's not the like bullying that some people go through. And it comes back to, for me, is like taking things personally, where it's almost like your athlete, say, doesn't do something, doesn't fill something out or overshoots, and it's like, why is that upsetting you? Like, why is
like
that
a personal attack? Yeah, that to me is, it actually, that's like a pet peeve that I have. I try not to get like bothered by too many things, but that is just something that I actually can't stand it when I see that. The way that, like that power dynamic that gets misused, misplaced, I don't know, it's weird. It is, I don't know, I can't understand from like the lifter point of view why you would put up with that. But there seems to be cases where the lifter almost has like Stockholm syndrome. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Where they think that is the norm and that's how
Yeah.
they should be acting. And again, similar to as you're saying, I've heard people say from the coaching perspective justify it as like, I'm just a straight shooter. I just like tell it how it is. I think that's like
You're a straight bully.
yeah, I think that's like a cop out for just having like shit personal
Yeah.
skills and not knowing how to respectfully like interact with people.
Yeah.
I'm just like I just call it how it is. Hey, you're actually just kind of an asshole.
Yeah. And people get to, I have a feeling it's when people get to a certain level of like, they have X amount of athletes or X amount of experience. So it's like, right, well, I've gotten to this.
Oh, yeah,
I
I
don't
know what
need,
I'm
I've no
doing.
one to,
Yeah.
I've no one
Yeah.
to prove myself to. It's
Yeah.
like, what? It's like,
Yeah.
you've gotten to a certain level of fame now. You can just
Yeah.
hate people.
Like I even had something the other week where I had just seen someone who had like an in-person session with their coach, and they were like almost in tears after, and they were like, if I didn't have this competition coming up, I would be straight out the door.
What?
Yeah, and I was like, and I didn't say anything because I'm not gonna be like that shouldn't be the case. Your coach shouldn't be doing this. But in my brain, I was like, oh my god, why are you not out the door? Why are you putting up with that?
Yeah.
Like, why are you actually putting that? Is so insane that you would accept that. So
And paid for it as well.
yeah, if it was you are paying them. You're paying them. If it was any other relationship that someone was like treating you that way or like shouting at you, imagine shouting at a lifter because they did a technique wrong or they overshot something. That's unfathomable.
Cringe.
And even, do you know the way you're saying about the people who like they want like harsher style coaching? I
I don't think that's what
yeah,
they want.
in I don't think like people don't like criticism, but like to take criticism well is like a skill. You have to like practice it, and even then, when you like get criticized, there is like the initial like knee-jerk reaction where your body's like, oh fucking I don't like that, and then you have to like consciously override that with, okay, that's why this person is saying it's fine. Blah. People don't like criticism. People don't like feeling bad, especially with something like powerlifting where they're investing their money, they're investing hours of their time, energy, sweat into this thing to feel good about it. But if you're, as the coach, making them feel bad or like constantly pointing out anything that they're doing wrong, so on and so forth, I just can't, I can't get down with that.
Neither can I.
Yeah.
So if you need coaching, your coach is an asshole, come to Honesty Strength or Blackwood Instagram.
Right, that athlete red flags.
Yeah, so I kind of touched on this with my initial answer is like, so obviously there's nuance to this, but for the most part, there should be a high tolerance for athletes doing things that maybe you deem inefficient or suboptimal, things like that, as in like probably utmost tolerance. The red flags start to begin with like, again, personal things, like if they're crossing boundaries of, maybe just crossing boundaries full stop, but crossing personal boundaries where rather than just seeing you as a coach, they may be seeing you as more. That sounds like I'm insinuating just romantic, but even just like
a therapist,
or kind of again misconstruing how you view the situation. So they think you're doing things. Basically, they're not assuming good faith in you. That they're assuming you don't have their best interests at heart. When you do, of course. So assuming like, oh, why wouldn't you do this? Or, you know, why'd you give me this? Like, surely that's not good. It's like, well, I'm giving it to you because I think it's best. That probably comes to mind.
I think and it is a difficult one because you raise the point of, are there many things that the athlete can actually do wrong? I would say the main thing that comes to mind is a lack of communication or like ghosting or just not communicating. That would probably be a red flag to the relationship because it takes two to tango. You need that back and forth. But even then, my take would be like, as the coach, the onus is on me to then communicate to the athlete why it is important to do such a thing. And if they are not communicating in a way that, say, I would think is necessary for me to provide the best service, it's then up to me to get that across why I need that information from them. And if they're still not communicating, I'm not doing a good enough job of that yet. So and that's almost a tricky one as well, because I don't know where the answer is for this one. It's like that whole extreme ownership idea. I will always try to see what responsibility I can take in a given situation. But there are times where it's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah.
An idea that I've heard from someone, I think it was Marcellus, Swell Fesser, where he said, I can't care or be more invested than the lifter. And I think I've ran into situations like that before where I have been more invested in like their progress than what they are. And that's totally fine, because and this is something that maybe it took me a little bit of time to realize or come to terms with in the beginning of coaching, that not everyone is as interested or invested in powerlifting as us, for example. Like, we've made it a very large part of our lives. We're very dedicated to. We'll structure other areas of our life around that. But for plenty of people, they just get into powerlifting because they like lifting weights and it's like a fun recreational hobby. But as the coach, you can't care more about the progress than the lifter themselves, because you can't force them to want to do the things necessary to progress if it's not a priority or it's not something that is actually important to them. So there's a fine balance there, because there has been times where it's like, okay, I need to take more ownership to find ways to make this person do the things that they would need to progress, but you can't. That's also a slippery slope.
It's slippery slope. I get you completely, and there's so much conversations to be had, but it does get to a point, or where there is a line, and I think you traverse this line person by person, relationship by relationship, but there's only so much you can do, and it's hard to hear that sometimes, because it's like, well, not only are they paying me, but like, if I can try sort something, I can sort it. But when it's another person involved, and it's not just, say, your car, it's like you can keep working on your car until it works, right? Or your computer or your phone or whatever, or like furniture or whatever. You can keep figuring it out. You can go get different tools or whatever. A person, though, and another life is like, there does get to a point where there is nothing you can do, and some people it's way less. Like some relationships, it's you need to stop way sooner than others. That is a complicated topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's leave it there.
Yeah.
Moving on. Okay. What attributes do you need to be an elite powerlifter?
Okay, so the two that came to my mind were basically patience and resilience, because time seems to be one of the strongest contributors to progress, but the strongest counter argument to that, or counter influence is challenges and difficulties and setbacks and regression or whatever. So just resilience and patience come to mind as being patient, that you might not be making any progress now, but if you give it enough time, you will. Resilience when things aren't fun, like that's, and I used to think, oh, we'll just make it fun. It's like, man, I tried the last month making it fun. There's seemingly nothing I could do. It was just shit. So just being resilient through that.
The whole time you're talking, in my mind, all I was thinking was autism and steroids.
They didn't ask how you made something.
No, just to clarify for that, that's a famous video from another person. They're talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and they're trying to recruit people with autism because they can give them steroids.
What? Why can they?
Because that's the secret to becoming the best. Okay. Anyway, I would say, like, genetics obviously a factor, but we can't control that, so no point even really talking about that. You could just have
I was going to say that, though. I was going to say, like, these are the things that come to mind that you could work on. But like, you could work on all these
and
things.
then you get trumped by
someone
who is eating his
they're just
chicken
going to be
nuggets
there
and
no
his
matter what,
pizzas
so.
and So obviously there's people who are just like freaks of nature, and they can get away with not having everything else lined up in order to facilitate progress, but they're the exception, not the rule. So I wouldn't worry about anything on the genetic front. You can't really control it, so just work with what you have. I'd say kind of similar to what you said, just that the willingness to do it for a long time, to just keep showing up, because that is probably the most surefire way to be very successful at anything, I suppose, is to just keep doing it and keep showing up. Like, if you lift for 10 years and you like train consistently, you train hard, after 10 years, you're going to be strong. Even if you're a bit of an idiot and you don't really know what you're doing, if you train for 10 years, you'll be strong. It'll be very hard not to have built a significant amount of muscle and gotten stronger in that time. Then I would say an extra thing is just willingness to look after those external variables, stuff like your nutrition, your sleep, your stress management, all the rest of it. I think the level at which, how do I even like phrase that? How serious you take those things will probably have quite a big correlation to how good you get. And again, obviously there's outliers who can maybe get away with not taking those things seriously, but for the vast majority of us, they will be what separates the pack, I would say. The people who take their nutrition very seriously, they're dialed in, they're making sure that they're actually moving in a productive direction, that will take you further ahead than the people who are just kind of like fumbling in the dark, hoping that they are going to make progress. So I'd say that. You're thinking, you're deep in thought.
I'm deep in. Did we talk about before? I think we were going to have a guest, and we were saying how we'd ask them, like, what is the difference between them and us?
Yeah.
Like, if we, for the most part, for the most of the time, tick all the boxes that we deem contributing to progress, and whether they do or don't, but they're hundreds of kilos ahead, what is the difference? Other than genetics,
I mean, even genetics is such like an umbrella term. I don't even know, as we mentioned, what's actually in the genetics that makes someone better. I don't know. I don't have the answers. All I know is if you eat enough food and you build more muscle and you do it for a long time, that's the surefire way that you'll get stronger. So just focus on that. Focus on if there's like a big domino that you can push that will like put most of the other things in place, I would say it's building more muscle. So just do that thing.
And it's like, even if it falls, even when it falls and it looks differently to how other people's dominoes fall, it's like there's only one way to push it over, regardless of what it looks like.
Yeah. Right, next question.
You read it.
Okay. What are your views on the role of social media in promoting or distorting the image of powerlifting?
This was good.
Yeah.
This is a good question because it does both.
Yeah.
I realized when I first looked, I thought it was is social media good or bad?
Yeah.
I don't think it's that. I think they're two separate scales. It's not a spectrum.
Yeah.
It's a scale of how much does it promote and how much does it distort.
Yeah.
And I think it's on both.
So for me, I would say, on the whole, it's been like a huge net positive, just for like the reach that powerlifting has and people being aware of it. There's videos that have like millions and millions of views, whether it's like an influencer who just like got into powerlifting. There's some video where it's like, I tried powerlifting for 100 days or something like that, and I think it has over like 1 million views. Or even just like on TikTok, Instagram, highlights from Sheffield, like Jesus squatting his world record that has like millions of views. Just the general awareness of the sport that there is something where you just lift heavy weights and it's actually in like a formal setting. Because I didn't know that when I was like 14, 15. I didn't know a sport like that existed. So I would say on the whole, just for the awareness of the sport, massive net positive and the popularity of it. And I would say it's just going to like continue to grow in that sense. I'm not sure what you think.
That was basically it. It was just that, so far, it's grown so much. You know, I think the emergence of TikTok and the very, very short form, because on Instagram, up until a certain year, it was just pictures. Yeah. And where did people post videos?
YouTube.
You didn't. But like casual videos, didn't really. No. And then obviously Instagram started videos, and then stories, and then TikTok. I think it was about that order. Yeah. But it was really TikTok where obviously people were getting into the pattern of just like scrolling until something satisfied them for a few seconds, right? Powerlifting is perfect for that. Yeah. It's like it's just like one or two lifts. Whereas it's like football, you'd have to get like a highlight, you'd have to get a certain goal. Whereas powerlifting is like you could just post each of your lifts and it's like bang, wow, that's cool. So I think that it fed into it perfectly, fed into the growth perfectly. I think even people who know about it, the more they see it, the more normal it gets and the more likely they are to do it. Yeah. Because if they perceive it to be more normal and more acceptable and more done, that they're going to have friends in it, they're not going to be viewed as weird when they do it. It's like, well, then they're going to do it. Yeah.
I think it helps as well because powerlifting is so like easily accessible as well.
Very easily accessible.
You just go into a gym. If there's a gym with a barbell and a few weights and a rack and a bench, like you can do it. So that again should just only contribute to the growth as years go on.
The distortion. The reason I realized they were two separate things is because distortion, I don't think stunts growth.
Yeah.
to a degree. Obviously, if it was distorted to the point where I looked really fucking weird, no one would do it. But the distortion is more so the distortion of what it actually is. Slash, one thing I put down was, again, the main thing being the whole like highlight reel idea. That Instagram, social media, TikTok, all you're seeing is the highlight reel. And in particular, what's coming up for people are Russell, are Antonio, are the strongest people in the world, because of course the biggest squats in the world get the most likes. It's like it's natural, it's normal. That's what I hope the reels are doing. Because why would they show people my lifts?
It's the outliers, and then it's only the highlights of the outliers.
Only
so it's
the
like
highlights of the outliers.
the genetic freaks hitting their best lifts. Not even the genetic freaks on their poor days or on their down performances.
So then, all of us involved in powerlifting, all we're seeing is
the best
of the best. And so that probably distorts expectations a little bit. Because like we're saying, you know, like what I said, oh, the domino doesn't have to fall the same way, is most people's dominoes probably look the same. But it's like the only dominoes we're seeing are Russell or
freaks.
And it's like, then people are wondering why their progress isn't looking like that. And it's like, man, you're only seeing that because he is 1 in a million.
Do you know what I'm wondering? And I don't have the like fully formed thought. When we started out, obviously powerlifting was still like relatively big. There were like, it was the thing. There were people who were really strong, but there wasn't many sub-juniors. So we started out as sub-juniors, and we were looking at like, okay, we're already taking the national record. Okay, that kind of way. And then we were looking, okay, internationally, we're already kind of competitive. For me, I think that was really helpful because it like kept me engaged and wanting more, because I had seen like success off the bat. If you're like a 15, 16-year-old kid getting into powerlifting now, and you're looking at like the scale of the gap for how far people are ahead, how do you stay like interested or motivated? How do you not fall into that trap of people are so far ahead, what's the point?
First thing that came to mind was like me, say, looking at the 105s open. That's so far ahead that you could argue the same thing. However, I'm now so far in
that you're
I have a better
invested.
understanding. I'm invested in my own lifting. However, starting, that is a tough one.
It's an interesting thought. And again, like, it comes back to, you need to just lift for the enjoyment of it for yourself. But that's me saying that as someone who's trained for 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it is. When you are new to lifting, it's like hitting those PBs that is exciting. When I was starting out and I was a sub-junior, it was the idea of getting medals and the idea of like podiums and records. That was what was really exciting to me. But again, you're just like that, like there's the level of immaturity when you're in that beginning phase, and you do want all the kind of superficial things. So how do you navigate that? How do you traverse that as someone who's now starting in a scene that is so much further ahead than when we started?
I think all it probably is let's say they're seeing someone their age squatting now like 275, and they're currently squatting 100. It's like, even if they have a level of, I say naivety, but that has like a negative connotation. Just like I could be there, I don't know yet. Yeah, it's like, well, actually, they actually don't know, because everyone's starting in that first month. They probably don't really know, right? Any progress is probably an accident because they don't really know what they're doing, and any lack of progress is also the same accident because they don't know what they're doing. So let's say they're squatting 100 and they see someone in their weight class in their age, or a sub-junior, say, squatting 275. They actually don't know any better. So all they can do is try training for like 6 months. And then after 6 months, they'll either be at 110 or 200, as like that'll be people's progress. But then once they've invested that much time, it's like, oh, well, now I want to get to 120 or 275.
I was going to say, I think it's the progress. I think that's what's addicting. That's what probably drew us in before we knew we would have been competitive, is just that. The feeling of progress, that's the addictive thing maybe. And that's another thought that I've had, because it is somewhat common where people will get into powerlifting for 1-2 years and then drop out, or like burn out, or like not keep it up. And I think if you're just always making progress, or you're consistently making progress, how could you get bored of powerlifting? Like, the only time you get bored of powerlifting is when you're not getting better. So just stay in a surplus for the whole time, keep putting on muscle, and you'll be totally fine, and you'll stay powerlifting for years and years and years. There you go.
you're gonna cut down and just quit.
Yeah, but it is that like, okay, there's another question here. We are going to jump around.
Yeah.
Where it was like, would you ever quit powerlifting? And your answer was interesting to me, where we talked about this before.
It was, let me just run to it, but I think what I said was, yeah. I said if I couldn't make progress,
Yeah.
similar to my lifting in the last like month,
Yeah.
if I had to put up with that for a long time, that wasn't fun.
Yeah.
That month of lifting.
Yeah.
So I probably wouldn't do it. I'm going to give it a sustained period of time because I believe the pendulum comes back. But if it didn't,
Yeah. How long would you be willing to train and not see
I
progress?
think that's actually really hard to say because even though on paper I was only 4 or 5 weeks, that was like that felt really bad. So I could say, oh well, you'd give it at least a year, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But that's a whole year of your life where you're hating what you're doing. I don't know if you would do that. Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah.
I fucking did it. I survived. I'm never quitting. I had my year of shit. My total didn't budge. Yeah, I didn't get anything. Fucking nothing I got. And I don't know why I kept going.
It's your autistic and steroids.
Man.
That's what it is.
Hell. Yeah. Fuck. I kept going. But
So
I
what would
wanted
make-
to quit.
What would make you quit now?
I was constantly thinking I'd quit. Now, what would make me quit, I think, is... It's a good question, because I was going to say, like, if I was just no longer as interested, or my interests, like, sort of transitioned elsewhere. Like, there was something else that I wanted to put the equivalent amount of, like, time and energy that I put into powerlifting. I would rather put that elsewhere. But again, I'm making progress. And making progress is fun. So I fucking love training, because I love coming in and being better and being stronger. I just love that feeling of climbing a mountain, being on a mission, like having a purpose. I love that, and I'm continually on that path. But maybe over the last like couple of years, it's like I pull back the curtain and I realize what things move the needle and what is necessary to just like continue to make progress and like continuing to build more muscle. And that's, on one hand, it's like almost a relief, because I know I can do that for the next like 10 years, just continue to build more muscle. Like there's no mystery, there's no question around it. But then at the same time, it's also like, okay, I know there is no mystery, there's no question. I know I just need to put in X input to get Y output. So maybe it's that lack of novelty where it's like, okay, I know I could squat 350 5 years down the line if I just keep rinse and repeat in the surplus, trim off the excess body fat, back into the surplus, trim off the excess body fat, gradually building more muscle and more muscle and more muscle over time. I could keep doing that for the next 5 years to get to 350, but maybe it will get to a stage where it's like the diminishing returns. It's like, okay, I know I could get there. Maybe I'm satisfied with knowing I could get to that end point. I don't need to invest all that time and energy anymore to get to it. Maybe it's the knowledge of, I know what things move the needle. I know I could get to this point. I don't actually really need it anymore. Maybe that would be a stage where I wouldn't do it. But I think it's actually, this is a conversation I've had with quite a few people. And quite a few people who are like high up in powerlifting about this. And there's a lot of people who are like really high level athletes, famous influencers, blah, 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 who are like considering stopping powerlifting in the near future because of, say, like the time and effort and energy requirement. We're young. You literally just finished being a student, but you're going to do masters and stuff like that as well. We have like a decent amount of free time and freedom. As you get older, you have more responsibilities. I don't think it's any coincidence that the majority of the percentage of the population of powerlifting are like younger people. They're people from like 16 to 25 maybe. As you start going above that, when people have like adult responsibilities, they start to get a little bit like fewer and further between, because it is something that takes quite a bit of commitment. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of energy. And when you need to put food on the table, or if you have a family to provide for, or you have a young child at home, how much weight you can squat is probably not as much of a priority. So maybe in that instance, if I say, okay, I really want to be able to put more effort and energy into business things or family things or whatever it is, maybe that would be incentive or reason enough to step back from powerlifting.
Man, imagine you made the conscious decision. You're like, right, you know, me and my girlfriend want to have kids around 30. That's just put a random thing on it, right? And you're like, okay, so I am going to squat X before then.
Yeah.
And it's like you have this big build up, and it'd be like a movie, man. You can make a documentary about it. It's like the baby's on the way. It's like 3 months out, and so you get a competition like 1 month out, and it's like the baby's kicking,
Yeah.
and you are peaking,
Yeah.
and you go, and it's this big emotional. You know, you squat it,
Yeah.
squat whatever it is,
Yeah.
350,
Yeah.
and you're like, baby, I'm done. It's like that's me. You hang up the sleeves, you hang up the belt, and you're like, that's it. But no, you're touching on something that is very reasonable. It's just life happens, and that's interesting actually. I wonder what it's like, not even the uptake, but the commitment to sport beyond like family starting ages. I'd say is minimal.
Yeah.
But I wonder, is that also a generational thing as well? Where like in previous generations it was like you know, pretty traditional conservative, like you got to take care of your family. It's like, I'm not saying you
no, you don't.
I'm not saying you don't have to
put them in
take care of
crash and they'll be fine.
but it's more like, you know, there was like
I know.
The weight of responsibilities was different.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know what's coming to mind?
Yeah, I get.
Maybe it would be easier by the time we're around 30 plus, 40 plus.
There'll be
like
robots to look after the kids.
Have you watched Fallout yet?
No.
Watch Fallout, man. It's
I
really
need
good.
to, I need to. I'm
really
too busy being an adult. But
oh, here we go. Here we go. Bro's done powerlifting now, bro.
Yeah, very interesting one. And then even then, this is something we've kind of touched on in a few different podcasts, that idea of like transition. When you decide I am packing up with powerlifting, what's that going to be like? Because I'm so used to training 6 days a week and having a competition to work towards, or having something on the horizon, or having a purpose, having a direction. So say I decided afterwards, done with powerlifting. What the fuck would I do with my days? What the hell?
This is it though. You were saying, you know, it's generally when
There's
responsibility starts to outweigh, or it starts to take up too much time. Right now, you don't have that.
Yeah,
so
there would need to be another thing competing for that energy, and I don't got that right now. All I got is training. Yeah. Damn. Oh my God. That's the official statement right there.
Did you hear that shit?
Yeah.
Anyone listening?
So our camera guy just said he's done. He said he's packing it in. He said he's gone. He's retired. Fuck. Okay, we're gonna have to do an interview with Mario next. This is gonna be his retirement podcast.
I quit powerlifting. This is the title of the video.
Well, that's gonna be our guy right there. I quit powerlifting. Oh my God.
2 weeks gone.
Damn.
Wow.
We're gonna have to pick your brains on that afterwards.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Yeah, but there is a lot of people that I've talked to that share a very similar sentiment to that. That they're thinking of packing in powerlifting quite soon.
Let's say you quit. You still go to the gym, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do?
That is another
you probably still be powerlifting.
What do I do, like training wise? Like, would I be? I've been training with the same like system for the last like 4 years. Yeah, because there's people I know of. Say when I was just doing like general PT, that like they come into the gym, and this is like say other like trainers. They come into the gym and be like, "Oh, what are you hitting today?" And they're like, "Don't know." I'm like, "What the fuck are you hitting? What are you hitting? You don't know."
Whatever feels good. My shoulders a bit sore. I might try.
Like I might do some rows today. I'm like, "What the fuck do you mean?" And then they're like, "I might do my 5x10 of squats." I'm like, "Brother, come on. What are you talking about?" So yeah, that couldn't be me. I would need something. So this is another question, actually. See, we fell into the trap of skipping around again. It just always happens. Okay. Would you do a bodybuilding competition?
No. My answer to this was short and sweet. It was, would I train like a bodybuilder, diet like a bodybuilder?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would I do the show? It doesn't interest me personally.
Yeah.
But I would, like, to me, all bodybuilding is, in my head anyway, how serious we take training is like training just without focus on the squat, bench, and deadlift.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of like our training approach now. Just minus the dieting.
Like if you took out my bench, I'd probably just be doing like a dumbbell bench and more machines, and then deadlifts. I'd be doing like some sort of RDL anyway.
Yeah, some hinging.
Yeah.
For me, if you had asked me this probably 6 months ago, I would have said, yeah, no, I had no interest in doing a bodybuilding competition. Now, asking me today, kind of.
Really?
Yeah, kind of.
Why?
I don't know. There's a few people doing shows, say in my gym, and seeing them be like shredded. I'm like, that is kind of cool. It's cool, like the purpose and the direction that they're on. Like they're doing a task. They're working towards something. I think if I didn't have powerlifting now, that may be the avenue that I would look to go down, because I really enjoy this style of training. The idea of like the show itself doesn't really interest me that much at the moment, like the posing and the fake tan and stuff like that. That is not really as much up my alley. But I think maybe even just one time for the experience of doing it, for like the having to gut out being in like a gnarly deficit to get really lean, just to have done that one time, just to see what it's like to have that experience. If I wasn't doing powerlifting, I feel like that would feel good as a sense of purpose and a direction to work towards. Yeah, I don't know. It's seeming more realistic now. I can't necessarily picture myself on a stage, but if training keeps like going in this direction and being around bodybuilding, being around people who do like physique shows, I might do it one time. I might just do it one time. Anything of people like Russ, he's done bodybuilding shows. There is like a decent like crossover between the two, that you could do a bodybuilding show and then still dip back into powerlifting. They're closely enough related that it makes sense. And obviously, like, I'm a powerlifting coach, I'm involved in that world, where I've seen like powerlifting coaches before who obviously were involved in powerlifting and then just like stop entirely and then do something like completely unrelated but are still coaching powerlifting. That's totally fine, but it always just has like a little bit of a weird like feeling for me. I don't know why. Or I've been in gyms where like it was someone who used to be like a powerlifting coach, and now they're still coaching powerlifters, but they like talk shit on powerlifting. That doesn't sit right with me whatsoever. They're like, oh, powerlifting's so boring, and stuff like this. And it's like, brother, you coach 15 people who that is like the most important part of their day, and you're going around shitting on it. So I don't like that. I don't think I would feel right coaching powerlifting and having nothing to do with that world. So yeah, maybe bodybuilding would be a decent segue to still be involved in the circles. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, might too. Right, see, now we have to jump back and try to find the questions where we were. Is there such thing as a perfect training program?
This has been ticking you off lately.
Yeah, it has been.
It's been ticking on you off.
My
You
gears.
could text me and mention it.
Yeah.
Man, don't mention golden motorcycle,
Yeah,
man. This
fuck
guy.
the golden motorcycle, man. Fuck a golden motorcycle. I don't even know my thoughts necessarily on this. Is there a perfect training program? No, I don't think so. Yeah. No, I don't think so. I've seen other coaches, and this is something that like it was giving me hassle.
Giving him grief, man.
It was giving me hassle in my
Seen
brain.
this post and he was trying to type replies, but he didn't want to say it.
No, I never type reply. But in my brain, I'm thinking, because I'm trying to understand where another person has come from. To like, I don't just like shut down someone else's idea. So it's like, okay, what do they have in their brain, or what evidence do they have, or what is just like informing that thought or that decision, so I can absorb that knowledge and then expand my own understanding. Talking about like golden microcycles and the perfect like training layout and having specific days to be like the perfect primer session to express strength here and yada 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 with like programming stuff, and it just does not, to me, I don't know, I just don't align with it. I don't know, maybe it's just I haven't seen the evidence to back up that line of thinking. My understanding of training would be more along the lines of like, there is a very like wide window of things that will work to facilitate progress. I don't think it is something that is like super specific and there is a golden layout for training and you have to like do this really like intense discovery process with each individual lifter because everyone is really unique in the way that they respond to training. For me, I haven't seen that evidence, and I would happily like to see that evidence, to see what that philosophy or like thought process is informed by, but I just haven't seen it personally. Now my coach, and this is an idea that has resonated with me quite a lot, has talked about before the idea that if someone told him you can only program triples Like if I had to write your program, but the only rep range I was allowed to use for all of your working stuff was triples, he's like, I could make someone progress with that. I like that idea quite a lot. That the training program and the way that you can facilitate progress is much more resilient than this, like you're trying to be like a sniper to find this like really mega precise training layout. Because I used to think it was that. I used to think that before, like in my previous years of training, that I needed to follow this super mega precise like layout, otherwise I wouldn't progress. Over recent years, that is not my opinion whatsoever, and I think there's a much broader window of what will facilitate progress. And for me, my understanding is if you have the outside variables in line, like nutrition, sleep, stress, all the rest of it, you are lined up that you will be gaining muscle over a long period of time. The amount of things that you can do with the training program, again, the best way I can describe it is it's such a broad range. It's not something that is mega precise in this golden microcycle that you should be chasing. That's just my outlook, that's my understanding. I don't think it's something that is super technical. And I think sometimes again, this is my, don't shoot me, or don't shoot the messenger. As a coach, if you put it out there that you are finding this golden microcycle, it makes you look great because you have this wisdom that other people don't have, and you're gonna find the mega ultra precise thing that you must follow because I know the secret code, that maybe puts you as more of an authority in a coaching sphere. Now, I'm not saying that is the intent of anyone who's like talking about that line of thinking, but that I was under that impression. Say before with certain training programs that I'd done or working with a certain coach, I felt like I had to stay with this person because they had the really precise recipe of what will make me progress. And people would tell me, bro, no matter who you're working with, you'll be progressing. Yeah. And I was like, no, I won't, because I'd only been training like 2 years and all I had known was this thing and it was made out to be really precise. But yeah, again, in my opinion, there's a very wide range of things that will work, provided you have the outside variables in line. Even for myself, an example, that period where I wasn't progressing at all, the training structure now is almost the same as it was then. The only things that have changed is I started eating more food. So it's not that the training needed to be, again, something that was like really fine-tuned and tailored. The training stress and the exposure can be all it is stress. Our body doesn't fucking know the difference between a safety bar squat and a this and a that and whether you're doing sets of 5 or you're doing sets of 3 or blah, blah, blah. It's all just stress. It's just stress on the body. The body goes, ooh, this thing is real hard. Let me get better. And then you have the other things outside of the gym to facilitate that progress, and you make progress. It's that easy. Now, there's definitely more nuance to that. No, the more I think about it, I'll uncover it.
I have like what I can bracket into for and against, and then like more to pick on your brain.
Yeah.
Right. So before I go into these, which aren't dissimilar to what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you were mentioning the threes.
Yeah.
Right. And you said if you just had threes, you could make someone progress. That's what Joey said. So wouldn't you be looking for, like, you're still writing it in a way that, like, when you write it down, if you wrote it down 10 different times, there's one that you're going to give to the athlete. And why is that? Because of those options, it's the most perfect. I'm playing devil's advocate here.
I'm trying to imagine 10 different ways that you would write it.
As in, like, okay, you could give them 3 at 10
yeah.
on squat, pause squat, hack squat, 3 at 10 on 3 bench variations, and 3 at 10 on 3 deadlift variations. Yeah. Put them all in the one day and give them nothing else during the week. That's one option. Or are you going to give them something that... You know what I mean?
I get what
I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah. So let me build onto that.
Yeah.
I think there are certain principles that will, again, facilitate more or less progress. And there are things that need to be kept in mind about spacing of days, managing of fatigue, managing of stress, overall, like, stress management, that you're not giving someone 3 at 10 on 10 different exercises. So yeah,
that was me exaggerating. Right?
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to think is and that's almost something that I'm presuming my understanding of those things is so, like, straightforward that it's not even entering my thoughts on the overall equation. Yes, you would need to make sure that you're overall managing stress decently. But I would say that's where it would come back to, I think, is that the range of what will overall manage stress decently is pretty wide. It's a broad thing. It's not, again, that this day must be here so that this day is here and this amount of load and tonnage is here. I think there is a wide range of ways that will manage stress accordingly.
So
that's my understanding.
I think how I understand what you're saying is that, let's say you have 100 options of how you program the same bunch of exercises, rather than there only being one that works.
A golden.
There's like 30 or 40, even 50 ways.
And I think it's almost impossible to discern of that 30 that one is going to be perfect more than the other.
I was really hoping you would say that, because my against then was coming from studying psychology, where we are studying like human behavior and inputs and outputs and determinants and compounding factors and reasons people might behave or respond, or the effect of a drug, or the effect of this behavioral change or intervention, or just observing and seeing. We like research skills and how to research was a pillar in each of the years, and then by the end you're doing your own. Man, there is no way you could discern in a person or a group of people. There's no way. There is. It actually makes me vomit. The amount of compounding variables that go into someone's response to training. There is no way that you could discern to the set, or to the variation, or to the timing, or that this is perfect. Because you can't do that with a very simple thing, like whether, you know, I'm making stuff up here, but let's just say whether you drink out of that bottle or that bottle will make your hydration habits better. Like we couldn't discern that, because there's too many variables. There's too many variables affecting X amount of behaviors, right? There is no way that you can make it controlled enough as an experiment, and that's kind of what it's made out to be. Is like, oh well, like we've meticulously trialed all these things. It's like, no, you've meticulously trialed writing down all these things, but then while you trialed it over a year, it's like their life had
up and down,
hundreds of things coming into them, and coming into Jesus, hundreds of things influencing them, not only in a training specific way, but like very far out from training that still affects training and response. So that's the against.
Sorry to cut across. I'm glad we came to that, because even as I was like talking, and again, it's not a fully formed like idea I have in it. It's like, I know there's probably holes in this thought process that I have at the moment, but that idea, that the way that you talk there of having 100 variables and 30 working and not being able to discern one being more perfect than the other, that is the crux of my belief. I think that is the best way to summarize that, or like to give it as an analogy. It would be that. So I'm glad we managed to unravel that to that point.
I think the perfect, and the reason I don't shut it down is because I'm then grouping that 30 as like they're the ones we're looking for. So when we say we're using this like bottoms up approach to find what works, it's like we're trying to just find the 30. And because you're always going to exist within the 30, because your mood might change. And fucking, I hate having my squat there. I hate having a primer bench here. It's like, okay, then you move to number 15 instead of 10. But you're still in the circle of the range.
So that's my philosophy, is there is a range. There's a wide range of things that will facilitate progress. And even then, like, it's not specific to powerlifting, but it comes back to like the idea of when I was younger, say like in school, there would be, like, I was the powerlifter. I was the guy who was meant to be real strong. There's people who benched more than me because they would just go into the gym like a mong and bench 6 days a week and do 5 sets of 10. And they had no training principles. If you looked at their training program, you go, that is the biggest crock of shit I've ever seen in my life.
No training program.
Yeah. And they're stronger than I am. So it's like we can fall down like this avenue of thought or line of thought that we need to like, it needs to be this really meticulous thing, and we need to, again, it has to be like the perfect program. But there's people who are on the complete other end of the spectrum doing something abhorrent and still making progress doing it. So again, it's just my belief that the range of what will facilitate progress is quite big. Now, would I recommend doing 5x10s? Probably not. For the vast majority of people, you'll probably run into
fall
issues.
In the range.
You'll probably start running into aches and pains and niggles and bumps and bruises, and it'll be very hard to continue to progress. So that's where it comes into, there are rules and there are kind of best practices that will facilitate progress for most people. But yeah, just that idea that there's a wide range and it's quite resilient. It's not like this super precise, almost fragile thing then. That if you're not able to stick to this golden microcycle, then, oh my God, you're not able to make progress in the perfect way. Whereas if you have the idea that I can make someone progress with triples, or I can make someone progress with fives, I can make people progress with a vast variety of things, I think that's much more robust, and that's probably that is a more comforting outlook for me to have.
From my understanding of humans, which is way better than most people's, but also so shallow in how deep we could get into this, you could find something for a 7-day period of someone's life that was probably the best protocol for that week. That protocol will not be the best for the week after or the week prior. And there are, like I was saying, tons of extraneous variables outside of what you know of and that you can control or even consider that, yes, this might have been perfect this week, and then if you do the exact same thing next week, it is not perfect again, even if seemingly nothing changed. So in my eyes, it's like it is actually just impossible. And so you have to work within a range, and that's what's perfect. When you then narrow the range too far, you then miss what's perfect. And so you've gone looking for perfect, but then you miss the perfect. The perfect is the range, is the bubble that you exist within.
Damn. I feel like it's such a niche conversation, but that made me feel better about the thoughts that I was having, because again, I was feeling there are large gaps in my thought process here, but you need to have the conversation. I need your wisdom to be able to
bounce off
to form my thoughts. Yeah. Damn.
Andrew, you have the hairdressers.
Yeah. So we're gonna need to cut this off in a few minutes, but I feel like we're only getting started. We have quite a few more questions here. Fuck's sake. If you could be guaranteed to win Worlds, but you have to represent GB, would you?
Ooh. Okay. I don't know how you answer this, right? Okay. There's kind of two answers here. If it was because, okay, let's say I could compete with GB, but I'm in Ireland, I'm Irish, but the 105s are too stacked in Ireland, but they're not. I'm the best. I'd be the best in GB. I wouldn't go over.
Yeah.
If there was some other reason, you share that? Yeah. If there was some other reason, like let's say I now lived in GB, like
for whatever,
I moved over and I
couldn't fly. And I lived banned from flying back to Ireland.
Or like Ireland didn't have a Fed or something. It's like of course. And it's like, is there some sort of like nationalist sentiment of like, oh, I don't want to represent another country? It's like it's not that big a deal. It's like you know, Dammy's from Canada and he lives here, represents Ireland. It doesn't mean he's Irish. You're not saying you're from. You're British competing for Team GB. You are representing Team GB. That's it. But everybody else knows you're Irish. Like, it's not. You don't have to go around like proving you're Irish. It's like, it's not about that. You're not converting. You're just competing for a different team.
So my thoughts on it. First thing that came to mind is like the way the question is framed is like, okay, would you win Worlds, but you have to do this bad thing? In general, like winning Worlds is not even something that is that important to me. So like. In a lot of instances, like, would you win Worlds or you have to do this real bad thing? Probably just would happily not win Worlds. It's not like the be all and end all for me anymore. It used to be when I was younger. Now I get my value and my self-worth from other places, and that would not be something that is really high up my priorities or like wish list. So would I represent GB? My dad is Scottish, so I technically could have GB citizenship. So I would be equally as normal representing GB as I would Ireland, to be honest. Now, obviously, I was born and raised here, so I am Irish. I would consider myself Irish, but that would not be a problem for me, to be honest. I would represent GB. I have the GB singlet, of all the rest of it. It's not a big deal for me. There was one really good one here that I wanted to touch on. Advice to stay motivated during the off season.
Jesus, did I even answer that, bro?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, yeah. So here was an interesting one. Yeah, advice to stay motivated during the off season. To me, it's like that's the easier part of training. I find the off season is like where the pressure's off.
It's the fun bit.
Yeah. I guess it's like maybe the question insinuates you don't have an incentive to train. It's like, man, it's almost like we have this instilled
Yeah.
incentive to train always, and it's the off season is just a chance to have no pressure on my training.
And that's where the magic is.
That's where the
That's where
magic
you build the total. That's where you get stronger. I fucking love the off season. That's it. There's no hassle. Your body's not like beat up and sore.
You don't have to lift, and if you miss something, or if something doesn't move as well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because you're just pushing your accessory. You're pushing your volume work. There's no pressure on the number. There's no pressure on the outcome. Like the cognitive stress of approaching a competition. Hate that.
I hate it as well.
It's such a drain. Like it's so.
And I'm not saying I don't like the competition itself. It's like I knew going into junior nats I wanted to try and win.
Yeah.
So then when week 2 didn't move so well, I was like,
Oh my god.
I can't win, and now I'm shit, and now I'm like, what am I even doing? Why am I even trying?
That slippery slope.
I hate that. Whereas something doesn't move well this week, it's like,
I'm just gonna do my hack squat.
yeah, I'll just do my
Sets of 20
leg
in the hack
press, and
squat.
I'll just sweat and pant, and it doesn't matter. You know?
That's grand. Yeah, I think off-season training is the most fun. I love off-season. If I could just always be in off-season training,
I honestly
would do
said
it.
that to Adam. I was like, man, will I just not compete and then just
do
PB
this.
every now and again? You know?
Yeah, I love off-season training. I think again reframing it that like that's where the total is increased as well, and there's no pressure on it. So you just get the best of every world. Now maybe it's not mega fun because you're not lifting the heaviest weights, but like when you're coming off the back of a competition prep where you've been going through the meat grinder, like you're glad to just be able to do your sets of 15 on your accessories and stuff like that. So yeah, like for myself, coming off the back of Euros, and I did the mini cut, and then I had that like period where I was in off-season training and I wasn't prioritizing it, and then competition rolled around, and then I didn't add a whole lot to my total. So if I could go back, it would be prioritizing that off-season, looking at that as the thing that is building the total, going to make you bigger and stronger, and then you just get to enjoy it. So yeah, reframe.
Yeah,
what the off-season
sounds like a
means.
reframe. If you're struggling, being motivated in the off season, and all you like to do is lift heavy weights, try some difficult accessories. It's really fun.
Yeah. Right, what else? Plans after juniors. Will you do long off season? Will you do a wraps and deadlift bar meet?
I personally don't have any specific plans after. I think after juniors, it's almost there's a chance to take the foot off the gas a little bit.
Yeah.
What's that even mean? Probably just looks like an off season.
Yeah.
Off season is still powerlifting, like we're saying. So I wouldn't frame it so binary. I would just say I probably won't compete for a little bit. You know, I could drop some body fat percentages, maybe. If, you know, I really wanted to strive for the open team, then I can do that instead, and I won't drop body fat percentages, or maybe I will, and it's all very fluid. Again, because there won't be any pressure. You could. I think at some point I want to do a wraps deadlift bar meet just for the crack.
You reckon?
Just for the pure crack, yeah.
I'm never doing a wraps and deadlift bar meet in
Really?
my life. I'm telling you for a fact right now.
Why?
I'm never doing a comp and wraps.
Why?
I could not be fucked. This is state of wraps, man.
Just
And I
so
hate deadlift
bad,
bars
like.
as well. I'm not doing it. Yeah, that
So,
would be me.
so Andrew, there's Andrew's answer. Will I be doing one, say, in December? No. Will I be doing one next year?
Yeah.
I have no plans. But yeah, on that idea, I think it would be a funny idea, yeah, to do.
Is training arms useful for powerlifting? It's useful for being a sick cunt. Like,
Yeah, your
you wanna
life
be
will just be
jacked,
better.
like,
If your
yeah.
life's better,
Like,
power
what
will
you
be
talking-
better.
and then,
so.
yeah, obviously, like benching, big triceps, obviously that's good. Why would you not want to train arms? So, to me, that's great. I went probably 3 years not training biceps because someone in the gym when I was like coming up was like, it's non-functional mass. It's not going to help you. Brother, I had tiny noodle arms for like 3 years because of you. Right?
I didn't
If
do
I could
triceps because I thought bench was enough, man. I bet my elbows barely bend when I bench, bro. For fuck's sake.
Oh, train your arms. And also, train your arms just to failure. Like, there's no point trying to train to like RPE7 or RPE8 on arms, right? Doesn't
My
exist.
favorite thing, and now working in the gym, I see it all the time. It's not just powerlifters.
Yeah.
I usually just do it to my clients. Now I've expanded. I say it to everyone. When people put down dumbbells or put back the tricep push down, and they are not like
Yeah,
shaking,
close to-
I'm like, are you warming up or what's the story? Or I'm like, oh, why did you stop? Is something wrong?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, I did 15. I'm like,
Yes.
so you're going up like 20 kilos? Is it? What the fuck?
Yeah.
That was easy. You know? Should be trembling here.
Right, final one. We'll bang it out. Thoughts on junior nats qualifying total? Should it be raised to push athletes to a higher standard? We have
We have the same answer. It's like no matter what you do, you can only
progress.
train and progress as fast as you're going to progress. Whether the qualifying total is 100 kilos away or 10 kilos away,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to change your training. You're going to train as hard as you can.
And you're going to get as strong as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Having just a higher number to aim for is not going to make you progress any faster. So, yeah, I would say. And also, it's the qualifying total for like
to
a
go.
competition. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Not to win.
That's the minimum bar to like get in. In Ireland, powerlifting is not that big.
Set it too high, no one goes.
Yeah, like literally, like if we set it too high, there might be like 3 people in a weight class. What's the
That's
point?
an interesting one. That comes from the idea surrounding training that like the real like, you know, you train really hard and you'll make more progress.
Yeah.
It's like, man, everybody's probably training.
More is
slightly.
not always more. Yeah. So, yeah. Right. That was a good one. It got got a bit racy.
We even
at the
have
end,
some more questions
Yeah.
that we could do on the
qualifying.
next. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right. Thank you. It was a pleasure catching up again. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening, guys.
Yeah. We'll catch
See
you
you
in
at episode
episode 15.
15.
Oi!